So while you're in PT school, is it possible to work not just a part-time job, but a full-time job while going through the full graduate physical therapy program? I think if you play your cards right and you're really good with your study habits and with your time management, there is a chance that this could work out for you. But there are a couple things to think about first. First of all, your first semester coming into school, it is quite a shift in what your life looks like. There is a lot of study time. Definitely not as intense as some might put it out to be, especially compared to med school. But it is quite a change, and you're trying to get used to a whole new language. And especially if you've been out of school for a while, like some of us have coming into PT school, it's a bit of a jarring shift. So I usually recommend trying to wait for that first semester to go by before you start trying to look at a part-time or full-time job, if possible. Now, there are some people that have to do this coming into school, keeping a full-time job. There are a few people I know that have had to do that, and this would include, there's a girl in my class that did have to work full-time while going through school, and she can do it. It was possible for her, but it was very, very difficult. So I would say if you don't have to work, at least for that first semester, just focus on being the best student you can be, the best physical therapist you can be. Then after you get through that first semester and get that under your belt, you can start looking at maybe phasing in a part-time job. I think full-time is pretty difficult to do unless your time management is supreme. You have really, really, really good study habits where you can kind of get the material down in a quick way. But that takes a little bit of time to build up again, right? That's kind of what that first semester is about, is trying to figure out, like, how do I study in grad school compared to college? And also, how do I effectively manage my time in a way that I haven't had to do? Because it is harder than college, for sure. But not quite as difficult as med school in terms of the amount of time you have to put into it. So, like, I would say, like, most people in med school don't work full-time job at all. But I think in PT school, if you can manage your time well, you could do part-time work for sure, especially later into the schooling, and especially when you're on breaks, like Christmas breaks, or if you have like a full summer off from school, that's definitely time to do some work. But you also need to think about, what is your time worth as a physical therapy student? So, like for me, I haven't worked a part-time job while I was in school, and that's for a few reasons. One is that I didn't want to basically put myself in a situation where I had to choose between school or work. If you're committed to a part-time job, I wanted to be able to be free just to focus fully on school, kind of invest in knowledge in myself. Because one of the things is, when you're in school, you have to make sure that you're taking everything you can while you're in school, because you have access to resources, you have access to professors, to different students that are going to think differently than you with their perspectives. You're going to have access to a lot of research while you're in school, a lot of educational videos, and there's kind of a time in your life to fully invest in learning that material, because it's going to be a lot harder once you're out of school and in the workforce to be able to do all this work. So this is the time to learn now, and if you're sacrificing some of that learning to make a few extra dollars, like not as good of a rate of income, right? Because most of us, our part-time work or even full-time job, going to PT school isn't going to be super high income, right? That's why we're going into physical therapy. One of the reasons is to get a higher income. Otherwise, you might be making $20 an hour and busting your butt to make an extra $100, $200 a week, but then you're sacrificing some of your learning at a time when we have access to those resources. So I would say be careful with pushing yourself too hard, and also having burnout going through PT school, because again, going to the workforce afterward, you have the time to grind. If you're already burnt out going into the workforce, it can be a big problem, right? Because that's the time when we can actually make a lot more income. So your time, or like your dollars per hour that you can earn, is a lot higher once you're a physical therapist. So that's kind of the time to really grind, put in the extra hours, because that income will just be a lot higher, right? Than if you're busting your butt the entire summer between school to work like 40 to 60 hours a week. Yeah, you make a couple $1,000s in the summer, but you can make that in like a quarter of the time as a PT, or even a fifth of the time as a PT, like a year later, right? And you could spend that time instead to focus on yourself. And that's what I did. Was I read a lot of books to make me a better clinician, learning about how to start a business, learning personal finance, all these important skills that I'm going to need once I'm working. And it's going to be hard for me to invest as much time into that while I'm doing a full-time job and probably doing 60 hours a week or more of work to make that income. So I think you have to be careful with what you spend your time in during PT school. So I would say look at your study habits, refine your time management first, and then once you make sure you're maximizing your learning going through school, only then should you look to start adding in part-time or full-time work if you think it's possible, and if you're in a financial situation that calls for it, then you just got to do the best you can. And I'm going to make another video about like the best physical therapy side hustles that you can run through school that I think could be worth your time, and some of the things that I did to make a little bit extra money in PT school. But again, watch how you do your time management, and I think that'll take you a long ways, not just in PT school, but outside it into work. So comment below, let me know what you did to pay through PT school and the side hustles you did to make some extra income on the side. Thank you.